This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella. So you're involved with them still on a volunteer basis?
Yeah, I'm still with them on a volunteer basis. And I love my volunteer work. I love teaching new people. I love hosting people, bringing people out to the CPW properties. It's actually
We just started recording, so just what we're talking about is you volunteer. Chris volunteers for RMEF.
For CPW.
Oh, Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Yeah.
Not Elk Foundation.
No. I've actually never been a member. I've always been shy of being a member of them. I've seen that they do some good work.
I gathered from our interactions prior to this conversation that you have some misgivings about them.
I certainly do. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Ranching for Wildlife program in Colorado?
No.
Ranching for Wildlife is special.
I mean, I've heard that moniker like in general, but
yeah. So it's
but not for a specific state, But go ahead.
Yeah. So Ranching for Wildlife is basically the chance of a guy like myself, who's a resident of Colorado, gives us a chance at drawing a really high-end tag that would otherwise take 25, 30 points or more. There's some tags, game unit 40 for mule deer, for example. For a second or third season rifle, I think it's sitting over 25 points. It's a long time to wait. Ranching for Wildlife gives guys a chance at drawing those tags and getting to hunt private land. Gives them a chance at it. Doesn't mean that you're guaranteed, but it's a resident only thing. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has funded.
Wait, what is it? Okay, but what you have to pay? This is a company. It's a company called Ranching for Wildlife.
No, it's actually through CPW. It's actually a drawn tag through CPW. Just like any other tag that you would put in for Colorado. It's only
it costs more. It costs more money or something.
No, it costs the same amount of money as if you were putting in for a regular tag.
Then why do they call it Ranching for Wildlife?
So what it is these special hunts are hosted on ranches throughout the state. There can be a cattle ranch that happens to have some fantastic elk habitat that perhaps they're a member of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and they want to host a few hunters out there. Most of these properties actually run private hunts, private guided high dollar hunts. Very, very, very expensive, out of my reach personally, far out of my reach. But the Ranching for Wildlife program basically gives a chance for an average guy like me to perhaps hunt these properties.
And what does the ranch get for it?
The ranch gets money. They get to continue. Basically, they get a little bit of preferential treatment for when they are allowing hunting, because you have to apply for landowner vouchers in Colorado. 160 acres is the minimum. 160 contiguous acres is the minimum before you can start applying for landowner vouchers.
That's a kind of hunting license?
It's a transferable hunting license. So otherwise, you would have to have your potential client apply for the draw and hopefully draw it.
Okay. So you're saying if I own land and I want to get a hunting license for myself, that's called a hunting voucher?
You would be able to get a license voucher that you can transfer to somebody else. To hunt your own property in Colorado, you still have to draw for a regular tag like anybody else.
Okay, so a voucher is a transferable tag.
It's the only way that you can have a transferable license in Colorado.
Okay.
So more than a few of these properties are going to be in very close contact with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. and they make sure
Wait,
that
I'm still trying to get my head around this. What properties?
the ranching for wildlife properties. So
Okay, so there's these properties enroll, or landowners enroll in ranching for wildlife.
they enroll in ranching for wildlife program. And
Okay, and then when they do that, then Colorado Parks and Wildlife issues some number of hunting licenses for those lands, for those properties.
they will issue a certain amount of transferable tax. So
Okay.
you have your landowner vouchers. So we'll say that you have 1,200 acres, and they will figure out how many licenses that you should have available to be able to potentially transfer to your clients.
Okay.
Enrolling ranching.
Okay, but that's different than the ranching for wildlife part.
That's
right?
different from the ranching for wildlife. But ranching for wildlife basically allows the public to be able to draw a tag to go hunt private land.
Okay. And
so
so you started to explain this, but I didn't have the backstory.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't understand. I didn't understand. So I'm in a position, I think, to better understand what the landowner gets for being enrolled in ranching for wildlife.
So ranching for wildlife, it kind of helps butter the bread in a way, because it gives the public a chance of being it gives the public hope that they might be able to hunt one of these fantastic properties. Many of them are some of the best, they're well kept or untouched habits, great elk, deer, pronghorn habitat. It's a great program in theory. Your hunt may or may not go as planned.
Wait, but the landowner doesn't. So the landowner doesn't get anything. He's just doing it out of the goodness of his heart.
Yes and no. Some of the properties, and I've talked to many other hunters, you will be limited on what area of that property that you can hunt.
But what I'm getting at is, why would a landowner enroll in this in the first place?
The reason why is because it helps promote CPW selling tags and gives you a better chance at getting those landowner vouchers. They will tell you that it doesn't, but the ranches that are enrolled in it seem to get a few more tags than the ranches that don't.
Okay, so there's some kind of quid pro quo going on.
Yeah,
behind the scenes, you think?
Yeah, I would imagine that there is, to some degree.
You give you let a few the common hunters on free of charge, and we'll get you more landowner tags.
Exactly.
Okay.
And and many of these properties are attached with Mule Deer Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Like they have Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation easements or something like that.
Ironically, they don't. They will not allow you to use their property to go enter BLM land or national forest or state forest or anything like that.
I think RMEF, though, I think that they institute conservation easements on private lands that don't come with access strings attached.
There is recently it's called Middle Creek. It's in San Luis Valley, and there was a purchase by a man here in Grand Junction. I moved over here a couple of years ago. Purchased by a wealthy man in Grand Junction in San Luis Valley. He bought 24 acres.
Okay.
Now, this property was a 1/4 mile wide and 8 miles long. And what it did is
that's more than 24 acres.
He didn't buy all of it. I do know that he bought it for an easement for Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to get to better elk access. And there was the road that goes along Middle Creek. Basically, you had to go to the end of the road, go around the private land, and then backtrack on the other side of the creek. There's somebody who owned it for a long time. He found this property for sale and helped create an easement.
It made it easier to access
It made it easier to access. It certainly did. It looks really great. I mean, it's a really great thing the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation did there. But as much, not to poop on their parade, but I'm the kind of guy who thinks that if you have to drive down to the end of the road and walk back 4 miles, then that's part of it. And that's what preserved that pristine elk habitat.
Yeah.
That's what made people like me or you or the guys who really want to go elk hunt, who enjoy elk hunting. That's what makes us honest, instead of saying, well, now I can drive my truck through the creek or, go across on this bridge and make it easier. I think it's that access, as much as it looks great on paper, doesn't always do the right thing for elk.
Yeah.
I think that, it's kind of like it's the opposite of privatization of land. It's the idea of, well, now we've created this hole. I can go in there, I can get that bull I've been after for years without having to put in the effort. And I understand why guys like that.
Well, doesn't it make it so that everybody and their brothers in there then? If it's like way easier to get in there?
That's exactly what it did. That's precisely what it did. And I understand why people like that easement. And it does make Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation look good. But I am a firm believer in sometimes doing it the hard way is the good way. I'm not against them doing the conservation stuff, but maybe it's one of those things that they were sacrificing those elk that were on public land anyways. Behind that private land was all public land. It was public land both sides. It was public land.
You could get to it. It just required a little work.
So it was a piece of public land, a piece of private land that was sandwiched in the middle of public. And it did help. It probably helps some guys get through there, but it's one of those, I think it was so that somebody could be able to hunt public land and say, hey, well, I can get back there now easier. And RMEF does, they do an easement like that in a place where it's obvious, but they sure aren't helping our corner crossing. Being here in Western Colorado, it's hard finding a place where you can corner cross, or finding a property owner that'll let you go, that'll let you cross their property, even if you don't want to hunt it. I've seen fence posts kind of migrating around a little bit, and it's one of those, I wish RMEF would get involved with that more and open up access to the guys like me, instead of, worrying about the next private property that they can hold on to. And it's a tough thing. The best elk hunting is on private land. I'm sure you agree. I mean, you're a scientist, you know this, Matt. I mean, it's the best elk hunting isn't on public land.
Absolutely. I mean, you just by virtue of knowing what people pay to hunt elk on private land.
I mean, if you see somebody hunting,
people pay $50,000 to hunt elk on private land in California.
Oh yeah.
20,000, 30,000 in Utah.
Yeah. I mean, $30,000 is a normal number for some guys.
But so elk hunting's better on private land for sure. But I guess what I'm wondering is, these organizations can't, like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, etc. I mean, I have all kinds of issues with all the hunting nonprofits. I have a deep disdain for hunting promotion.
Well,
and I have a deep disdain for R3, which I guess is the same thing. It's a form of hunting promotion.
Well, I think,
but like these organizations, my beef with these organizations aside, like I just feel like they're that makes them the enemy of quality hunting. But all these organizations can't be all things to all people. So I just want to keep track here. You don't like you're not on board with RMEF getting easements that allow access to be like super easy. And you wish they'd work on corner crossing.
I wish they'd work on a little more towards making it an even playing field. I feel like that thing in Middle Creek was more of a rich guy wanted an easy way to go get an elk on public land.
Yeah, but any poor guys could go do that.
They can. They certainly can. But the guy who bought that property, he can afford the big time. He can afford the big time elk hunt. the $60,000, $70,000 hunt. And that's
I
where
don't know, but it didn't. That he by putting that easement in, didn't he? Didn't he? Did they pay him a bunch of money?
he paid I'd have to look it up. You could actually look at it as a Middle Creek RMEF. That's one of their projects here in Colorado. I think it was like $2.1 million. It was a decent chunk.
They paid the guy $2.1 million.
They paid the original landowner. Now he gave that. From what I know, is that he created an easement. And he still holds the title on that. He still holds the land title on that.
Okay.
And that's in another way, he could revoke that at any point. And yes, they created that easement, but then
he's not legally bound. He could just take the $2.1 million and be like, on second thought, I'm just going to keep this money and nobody can go across there.
No. He owns the property outright. What he has done is created an easement through RMEF. Mr. Carville bought the property and basically helped RMEF and Mr. Carville created an easement for the public to be able to use, which is great.
I thought you said something about him. He could revoke it at any time.
But he still owns the property. From what I know, he owns the property. And what I see is that's one example in one place in Colorado where, yeah, RMEF did a good job. They did a pretty good job there. They made it easier access for the average guy to get back there. But I see them also kind of avoiding, like I was saying about corner crossing, I see them avoiding situations that they need to be helping the average guy, the guy like you or me or an RMEF member who's been paying his dues every year. I mean, I don't even know what their dues are anymore. I think they're $35, $40 a year or something.
Mm-hmm.
They pay their dues every year with this idea that maybe someday they'll get to come out west and hunt. They'll get to hunt, but are they making access to hunt, or are they relocating Western elk to the eastern states? Are they? I mean, the CEO, he does very well.
Yeah, that's probably that's public information. Do you know what he makes?
I mean, and when I argue with the anti-hunting organizations about things, and they, and I point out that their guy is making $380,000 a year, it's hard to.
What group leader is
Wayne Caselli with Wildlife for All? When I argue with those people over how much he makes and how little he does for wildlife, it's kind of hard when RMEF, when he's making the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's a ton of money. That's money that and I understand that he's got to bake his bread. I understand he's got to make his bread.
So the CEO of RMEF, what's his name?
Oh, geez. Ryan, if I remember right.
Holy shit. The CEO's name is Kyle Weaver.
Kyle.
He earns $411,122. Almost $500,000 a year.
I could fly us both to Africa and back for 2 hunts a year.
That is insane.
Wow. That's a lot of money. For a nonprofit. Matt. This is...
Yeah, and then, Shane Cronk has him here. I talked to him quite a bit. I've talked to him a number of times. He's the corporate financial officer. He makes 180. Jeez.
Yeah. And
that is unbelievable.
And think about the fringe benefits, all the stuff. I mean, if you want to be a big name hunting property owner, you probably let Kyle come hunt your place.
I had no idea they made that much money.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You know what my beef with them is, don't you? Have you?
Yeah.
There's two. There's one of them is that they do R3, and I hate R3. They fund leases for hunting celebrities.
Yeah. They
indirectly.
They do it indirectly here. That's part of that ranching for wildlife thing.
How
Uh,
so?
they make sure that those ranching for wildlife properties are holding elk and that their people can go. Mr. Newberg being a big time name here, they make sure that the big name guys,
Randy Newberg, for those of you that don't know, he's a hunting celebrity. He has a show called Fresh Tracks. Now, I'm saying you're saying Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation somehow makes it so that Randy Newberg can go elk hunting?
No, they make it to where any celebrity or big name guy, I was just throwing Randy's name out there, but they make sure that there is places for people to hunt if they have the money. In a way, they're privatizing wildlife. They make sure that these large private properties, that they're holding elk and that they have a place that they can go.
How does RMEF do that?
So RMEF sponsors some of the ranches. If they find out that you have prime elk habitat, you have 5,000 acres of prime elk habitat, RMEF will approach you to say, hey, do you want to join the Ranching for Wildlife program? You could be selling hunts. You could be, or you're already running hunts. If you're joining RMEF, you can be selling your hunts for more because you're a member of us. They're involved with Ranching for Wildlife hand in hand.
It'd be interesting to understand that a little better. Like it's just complicated. I'm not getting where the incentive would lie. Like
it basically makes it to where RMEF properties, just like a private land.
let's say I own land.
Yeah.
And how in the world is RMEF going to make me
they're making sure that
make me let Randy Newberg hunt.
Oh, they won't make you let anybody hunt. But what they do is they want you to have these celebrities on there because then they can promote their product and they can promote what they're doing and promote themselves.
Yeah, but but how to? But I just say no. I mean,
that's what I would do if I was a private landowner.
But they don't.
I wouldn't want to have any association attachment. Even if I was running guided private hunts, private land hunts, I wouldn't want any association attachment. I think it kind of takes the purity of it out.
Yeah, it just I don't understand what power RMEF has to allow or to make it so people that people of their choosing can hunt private property. I'd love to understand it. I believe it. The
big thing with RMEF is that they like having access, right? They talk about access all the time on their website, on their Instagram, their Facebook. They talk about access, but it doesn't talk about equal access, and it doesn't talk about everybody getting an opportunity. One of those issues is that if you are convincing private landowners to be part of the Ranching for Wildlife program, which I'm not against the Ranching for Wildlife program, don't get me wrong. Not against an idea like that. Where the problem is that if you get an association going with it, they're going to want their celebrity hunters. They'll say, hey, Mac, can I have Joe Blow, celebrity hunter? Can we get him to hunt on your place? We'll pay you. You know, the sponsored hunt, you know, the big name. And when it comes to a private landowner, it's not like blowing up a public land spot saying, hey, I know this place in, you know, game unit 145 that's the best place for hunting deer. It's this lake. It's, you know, this creek. You go up this path. Even just a national forest sign can screw things up when it comes to a celebrity hunter going on a show and having that. But if he's on a private land hunt, all you got to do is say it was in Colorado, an RMEF property. It was in Colorado, or Montana, or Wyoming, or Idaho, or Oregon, Washington. Name a state that has elk and has those private property that holds it.
All right, let's backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
What you're telling me is that RMEF is somehow involved with the Ranching for Wildlife program. And
They
the
certainly
Ranching for Wildlife program is a Colorado Parks and Wildlife program.
it is.
And that
Now,
and and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation convinces landowners to enroll in Ranching for Wildlife, and somehow when they convince them to do that, then they also convince them to let hunters on of Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's choosing. What I don't understand is what the landowner is getting for this.
so the landowner basically gets to be in good with RMEF and have a steady flow of ready-built customers. If you're an RMEF member, you're pretty likely going to, well, I want to cash in my points. I want to go to Colorado.
RMEF
Or you have,
advertises the hunts.
they will help. They will help advertise those hunts. They have properties. You can look at their property. If you look at,
You mean they own property?
I don't know how many private properties they own, but
When
I
you
do know.
say they have properties, what do you mean?
So they have
To me, that means own.
So when it comes to properties, they have landowners who are members of RMEF, and they will have kind of like it's like a club thing, I guess is what it is with RMEF. It's like, hey, you paid your $35 membership or $40 membership, and you want your chance at Colorado, and you have a ton of money, and you're getting older, and you want to come west. That ranching for wildlife property isn't just doing hunts for Colorado through that ranching for wildlife program, because that's only for Colorado residents. They have those landowner vouchers that we were talking about,
Right.
and they can sell a $30,000, $40,000 elk hunt to Matt Ranella and say, well, you can come out and hunt this RMEF sponsored property. The land belongs to RMEF. The guides, the outfitters, they're all part of it.
Okay.
We had the famous whoever hunt out here.
This makes sense to me, that what the landowner is getting for it is they're getting their landowner tags advertised for them.
They get it advertised for them for nothing, basically, because you paid to be part of the club.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I understand that landowners, guides, outfitters, they got to make their money. I understand that.
What a bunch of bullshit. Like, why would anybody give them money? It's like self-flagellation. Like, I'm gonna give this organization money so that they can, like, they and their buddies and the outfitters and can sell more tags.
Yeah, so that they can sell more tags, and eventually, slowly, or
how does that help? Yeah, like, how does that help people? Like,
well,
how does that help the person that's given the donation?
Well, and it doesn't. I'm sure that the mass majority of their donors, of their members, will never hunt elk. They'll never see an elk, but they're going to keep giving them that $35 a year. You can bet your tail that they're going to give them $35 a year.
When I was a member, it was because I love elk, and I thought, I didn't look into it at all. I was just a naive young man, and I was like, this is the group that's looking out for the elk, so I'm going to give them a few bucks.
I used to see them in the Denver area. I would work gun shows with my dad, old gun club, selling memberships for the gun club. I remember seeing them, looking at their booth and seeing how flashy and all that stuff. It's like, these guys want money from me. What are they doing for elk? How are, and you go ask them, and they give you their spiel, and it's just an R3 spiel. They're trying to sell you the whole, like, the R3 thing before everyone really called it that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, guys, you're trying to convince a hunter to become a hunter and give you $35 a year to tell you that I like elk hunting. It's like,
right.
I've lived in the West my whole life. I've always lived in Western states. I've always lived in a state that had elk. why would I pay you $35 to tell me that you're helping the elk when I see what the elk? I can go drive out to the mountains and go see how the elk are doing today.
My team right now, we're just finishing up a big research project. It's big by our standards because we have full-time jobs. But we did a bunch of work on NWTF. We looked at their financials. We did a bunch of work to verify their role in projects they claim to have been involved in by calling third parties and stuff like that. I could see that the next organization we give that level of scrutiny to would be RMEF. You want to help us?
A National Wild Turkey Federation. I mean, I feel that's another one. They start with good intentions and then greed sets in.
Oh, stay tuned.
Greed.
Stay tuned. We're going to be recording on this just after Christmas, but we've got a bunch of interesting findings on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's there'd sure be a lot more turkeys available to hunt everywhere if they were doing what they say they're doing.
Yeah, instead they're focusing R3 on a species in decline.
And that's the thing is that I used to love turkey hunting, but I saw how few turkeys there are in Colorado, and I see how many licenses get sold. I'm not going to buy a tag.
Are you from Colorado? Like you're born and raised?
No, I'm actually originally from the West Coast. Moved here as a kid. And I've hunted in both.
What year did you move to Colorado?
Moved here in the 90s. So it's.
Are there fewer turkeys now than there were in the 90s?
So there was a big boom in Colorado. I'd say probably 2002, 2003. It was pretty easy to find a turkey. And even up till, I'd probably say 10, 12 years ago, you could find a turkey pretty regularly. And I do know, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but I mean, and I do know places that I can reliably find turkeys, but is there enough turkeys to justify me going and buying a spring license and a fall license? In all honesty, Matt, no. I know how many turkeys. I mean, I think there's less than 80,000 turkeys in Colorado and over 200,000 licenses sold. We'd be in
Are you serious?
It's a massive
2.5 times the number of turkeys.
Yeah. Well, and when you go out there, when we lived over on the other side of the divide, you go out turkey hunting and it's like you set up in your blind at 3:30 in the morning and you're drinking your coffee and you're like, all right, I'm ready for sunrise. And you just watch them coming in through the woods and coming along the creek banks, and then everybody's setting up their blinds 10 yards from you. And it's just like, it ruins it. And you get to this point where you're like, hey, it's crowded. There's too many hunters versus the 3 toms that we saw during scouting. There's 3 toms and there's 3 dozen guys in this one area. I'm not going to do it.
There's no places you can go way back in the stink
there
and find one all by yourself.
If you follow the snow line, there's definitely some places in western Colorado and southwestern Colorado where you can, but it's also, is there enough turkeys here for me to justify?
Well, here's the thing. It's like every year there's still 80,000.
That's why I believe in there needs to be limited licensing on them until you see a lot of turkeys.
You think they're below carrying capacity due to hunting?
I think that hunters need to bring it upon themselves to choose what they want to hunt.
Do you think there'd be dramatically more turkeys there if there was a moratorium on hunting for a few years?
No. In all honesty, I don't. Because it's either sex hunting in the fall. So there's people taking hens, there's people taking toms. I think
but you don't think that if you stop doing that, there'd be more?
I think that there would be. I think you would see more, but I also know that they're a ground nesting bird, and you have bobcats and coyotes eating their eggs. You have raccoons that'll eat their eggs. Ferrets have made a fantastic comeback. I'm sure a ferret would if they ran.
So if they did away with turkey hunting there for 5 years, there'd still be roughly the same number of turkeys.
I think you would probably see an increase, but I don't know if it would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to go for a long time. And the lack of predator hunters, the lack of people who engage in hunting predators, trapping laws are, you're in Montana, so they're pretty different between the two. You're not allowed to use clam traps here on public land. And that makes a difference. Those ground nesting birds like that, they need predator control. So as much as you would see an increase, I don't know if it would be enough within 5 years. You'd have to have a lot longer than that. And that would just makes more easy food for those, opportunistic omnivores who are going to be, a fox, a coyote, a raccoon, who are going to be ready and willing to eat that turkey egg. And those poults.
You probably know that turkeys are nationally, like there's bright spots, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Like Montana, there's quite a few of them right now. But nationally, they're in decline, right?
Oh, yeah, by a lot.
Yeah. It's just kind of funny. Like one of Ari or one of NWTF's deliverables, one of the things that they pride themselves on is recruiting and retaining 1.5 million turkey hunters in the last decade. Now, first of all, how in the hell do you determine that there are 1.5 million more people hunting turkeys than would be otherwise if not for your organization? I don't know how you determine that. And then why isn't that a point of shame?
Yeah.
When the resource is dwindling, why is that shouldn't that be something you should be ashamed of, not happy about?
Yeah, when you see less turkeys, you should be like, okay, guys, this is when we take it. Like myself, I'm going to take some time off until I get a wild hair and I got to get me a turkey. You
and I should start an organization that discourages turkey hunting.
Oh man,
and then we can have it be we've prevented 20 people from going turkey hunting.
Yeah.
And that'd be one of our talking points.
For Christ's sake,
one of those 20 people is not going to be me. I'll tell you that.
How about it? When it comes to turkey hunting, if you're going to travel states, these guys travel 5 or 6 or 7.
Oh yeah.
I got to get my turkey slam. You can go to Texas and go shoot pigs and get a lot more meat and have a great time. And you will give the turkeys a damn break and let them make a comeback. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against turkey hunting. I love turkey hunting. It's fun. I mean, you shoot one with a trad bow, there is no better feeling. But if there's not enough of them out there for everybody to get one, then that's when you go to limited licensing. It's like mule deer.
They already have. I mean, in the East Coast, a lot of places have gone from over the counter to draw bag reductions and bag limits.
I mean, I know getting an Osceola is a tall order nowadays. It's a damn tall order. But they're fun to hunt. I mean, they're an American icon, but for Christ's sake, if there's less turkeys, there should be less hunters. Take it upon yourself to go say, hey, in the spring, I'm driving to Utah and I'm going to go hunt bears. Or I'm going to go to Montana and I'll hunt spring bear, Wyoming, or where. Take and adapt yourself as a hunter to hunt something else.
Yeah.
Take it upon yourself to understand that, you can't say, oh, I only hunt turkeys in the spring. Well, dude, there's fishing, there's other hunting, there's coyote hunting, there's, you want to save turkeys. You should be shooting coyotes in the spring, not in the dead of winter. It's funny how hunters don't know how to take that upon themselves to adapt. They look at this social media crap and they get sucked in. They want to be like that guy that they saw. Oh, I saw him kill a turkey in 7 different states.
Right.
And it's like, I'm happy that I've killed a couple of turkeys in my life with, in the times that I've gone out. I don't have to be the guy who gets one. If I see one, hey, that's cool. Like this past fall, I saw a couple of dozen turkeys while I was elk and bear hunting. Well, that's cool. It doesn't mean I was going to rush down to the store and go buy a fall turkey license and shoot one. I mean, there's other things. I have other focuses.
What I think, it just be if you want to set a goal to shoot a turkey in some number of states, or I did that once,
Yeah,
like 7 or 8 years ago. You can hunt, you can shoot 5 turkeys in the spring in Montana if you
no,
travel around to all the districts. And I did it, and I got the Montana Slam. Now,
really.
yeah, and now like, would I do that if I thought Fish, Wildlife, and Parks was issuing too many tags and the resource needed a break? Hell no. And would I do it to brag about it on social media? Hell no. That's what I would like to disincentivize. It's like, if you're going to go do that, it shouldn't be an option. I'm not trying to pass any laws, but it should just be taboo to then go brag about it on social media, because then it becomes, then it opens up the possibility that that's the only reason you did it.
It's it's funny you say
You know
that.
what I mean? Like, you only did it just to brag.
Yeah, you did it because you wanted to brag. It's the grip and grin guy. I shot this monster 6x6 elk. I shot this 200-inch muley. They didn't do it because of the love of the animal. If you do it for the love of the animal, you take a picture, you put it on your wall next to your mount. Like, you won't find any dead animals on my social media.
Yeah, I looked in on you a little bit. I like your Instagram page.
Yeah. I mean, I refuse to put a dead animal on there if it's not on a plate.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't if I can't take someone who isn't a hunter and tell them, take a bite of this, then it shouldn't be there. Like, we're shooting ourselves in the foot every time.
Yeah.
We're killing ourselves, because that gives anybody who's against hunting that raised eyebrow. Like, even if they're not against it, it'll make them start thinking.
Yeah, and you probably know that, like, my concerns, I'm my primary concerns are elsewhere. I think I think that gripping and grinning is terrible for access.
Oh, it's yeah.
And it causes crowding and makes it harder to draw tags.
It really does.
And it makes it so that the kind of people that are in the hunting community are not the kind of people I want to be around.
Well, that's what kicks my ass about it, is it makes it to where we look like a chest beating football players.
Yeah. It's not a fucking sport.
No, it's not a sport. This is what I do. I don't remember my first time going hunting with my grandpa and my dad and my uncle. Like, that's how I was so young. Like, it's just part of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I got into because of COVID. It's not something I got into because I saw a TV show, or, like your brother's show or something like that. Like, no, I've been doing this longer than I can remember. This is me. This is who I am. And that's why these NGOs who are out there promoting this R3 shit, like, if you quit hunting, then you probably had a reason. And you probably don't, if you want to come back to it, you'll come back to it. You don't need somebody recruiting you. Recruiting new hunters, it doesn't need to happen, and the retention, like, there's those who are made for it and those who are not made for it.
The retention piece is the one piece I could get behind, because I think the way to retain hunters is to make sure they're having positive experiences, and that means access and conservation.
I think positive experiences is a big part of it, but also changing ourselves as a culture, and people understanding that it's about the process, not the product. It's a process to hunt. It's, getting your truck ready, getting your pack ready, getting your camping gear ready, tuning your broadheads for your bow, or getting your muzzleloader, your rifle, getting dialed in. The process that builds up to it, and the process of becoming proficient with it. Building on that process, I think, and people understanding that it's a process, not a product, and people enjoying the process. I love shooting my bow. I love shooting.
I can tell. I love it. And the results, show it. You're an amazing shot.
I love shooting my bow.
How far away could you consistently put a arrow in the vitals of a deer with your bow? Because some of the shots I was seeing you take at like out at the range, at the 3D range, looked like they were pretty far.
Yeah, I practice out 65, 70 yards pretty regularly. Uh, with,
Damn, with the recurve, that's freaking
yeah,
so far.
it's far, but would I shoot an animal past 30 yards? No, never. The whole point
Right, right.
of bow hunting for me, especially doing traditional, I like hunting. The reason why I love traditional so much is because I love hunting. It makes my season last longer. It makes me work harder. It makes me, I get to savor it more, and it's part of that process thing I was talking about. I get to say, I don't get to be like, I shouldn't be name dropping Levi Morgan and or Aaron Snyder and shoot an Aoudad at 100 yards. Man, don't tell me how far you shot him. Tell me how close you got.
Yeah.
Tell me you got 3 yards from him. I mean, this past season.
Well, those guys don't have to savor the hunt because they just then go hunt something else, and then they get that, and they go hunt something else, and they get that, and they go hunt something else. It's a job.
This past
you get one elk tag a year,
Yeah, I get one elk tag. And I like buying bear tags. I love bear hunting. It's fun. Amazing black bears are amazing creatures, and I am blessed with having a lot of color phase bears here. Just a ton of them.
You know what I heard several years ago was that there's anywhere that there's more than 30 inches of precip a year, it's only black phase black bears.
So I guess I'm giving away a location. So the Grand Mesa by the first week in November had a lot of spots that were 4 feet, 5 feet deep of snow, and some places thicker.
But it's probably still not a 30-inch precip zone, is it?
It's probably right there. I think on average it's 27 to 28.
Okay.
So it's not at 30, but because of that and because of most of the bears are denning up somewhere at that 9,000 foot mark, we luck out and we get beautiful color phase bears. We don't get that heavy precipitation like you guys do in Western Montana. Or even elsewhere in the Pacific Northwest, where you get those beautiful jet black bears, just beautiful jet black bears. We get a lot of blondies. I saw cinnamon. I had a nice chocolate charge me this year. Saw a nice cinnamon who wasn't old enough, wasn't going to wet.
Did you leave some chocolate in your pants?
Oh, I damn near did. He came right. I was in this little dry creek bed, and he came a charging. I couldn't get an arrow on the string in time, and and it happens, but I got to see.
I've never been charged by a bear. I see lots of grizzly bears and black bears, but I've never been charged by one.
I've seen some grizzlies going through Yellowstone, that kind of thing. In Montana, seeing grizzlies. In Canada, you see grizzlies, but yeah, black bears, I feel like they're the more aggressive one because they're questioning if they're the toughest guy in the woods. A grizzly's like, dude, I'm a grizzly bear. You're not messing with me.
He's not having to prove. He's not having to prove himself.
Yeah, he doesn't have to prove himself. But black bears, living on the front range, you'll get some accidentally aggressive ones. You find them near a dumpster, or behind a restaurant, or that kind of thing. Those city bears, those are the ones you got to watch out for because they accidentally do it. It's like it's a reactionary thing, But in the woods, on the front range, they're going to be pretty much nocturnal most of the year. I mean, minus the hyperphagia time, you will not see a bear in the daytime unless you're really far back there. Here on the western slope, you'll see them in the daytime quite a bit. There's a blondie, big blondie in the area that you'll see him all. You can see him all spring, all summer, and then he disappears that last week of August, never to be seen until the next spring. I mean, beautiful bear. Would love to get a shot at him, but it's just nice knowing that we have color phase.
Yeah.
That shows a good, healthy population of bears. And then, like you said, the precipitation, it's right at that weird cusp because you can go on the top of the mesa. Bears you see up there, they're going to be real dark black. As soon as you slide off the side of it, they start changing.
Yeah. Really? Just in that short of a distance.
Just in that short of a distance. And Uncompahgre holds a lot of bears, tons of color-faced bears there too. And that's, I mean, if you ever want to come down for a fall bear, I'm telling you, it's a fun hunt. There's tons of opportunity.
And that's right. You guys don't have a spring season anymore, right?
So we don't. In 1996, there was a ballot initiative brought forth by some anti-hunting organizations that blew a lot of smoke up everyone's tail. And they convinced the public that bears were greasy and terrible and nasty to eat, and people shouldn't be hunting them, and they're going to go extinct if we don't stop. So they voted to stop spring bear hunting in Colorado, and since then, we've had the population get pretty out of control. We're probably pushing, a few years ago, it was 18,000 bears, and I think most recently it was almost 20,000. And that's a lot. Oh. That's a lot for Colorado, because not all of it is good bear habitat. That's what I like to tell people, is that
there's one bear for every 4 turkeys. Pretty
much. I mean, and not very many people hunt them. Out of all the people that I know that hunt in Colorado, I met one guy during third rifle season. He had a bear tag, and that was the only other person I knew that bought a bear tag. Everyone else, if they're hunting bears, they buy a tag, and they call it their insurance tag. You buy a bear tag, you won't see a bear. And it's
right.
And I hate that people do this. If I shoot my elk, I'll go back and I'll sit on the carcass. It's like, you're going to go argue with a bear over a pile of meat. You're not the smartest bear hunter out there. Yeah.
You think it's cheating?
Not that I think it's cheating. I think that bears, when they claim, I mean, they're not like a grizzly, but I do think that bears, when they claim a pile of meat as their own, you don't want to argue with them. That's when they're going to get sneaky.
Oh, a lot of people put out bait and hunt over it. Yeah. I shot a bear doing that.
You're actually not allowed to do that here.
I know, but it's like, it doesn't strike me as dangerous when people do it.
No.
Large swaths of the U.S. and Canada.
I'm not saying it's dangerous. What's super dangerous? It's just, it's different and it changes things. Generally speaking, you're not going to be in a tree stand at that point, so you're going to be on the ground, and you're ground hunting a bear in September with a bow. Not my style to sit on a carcass and do it. I mean, if I approached one, if it was somebody else's carcass and I stumbled upon it, I wouldn't say no to the opportunity. I would rather spot and stalk a bear or find them we have a lot of oaks over here, tons and tons of oaks. And you can find, in a good year of good masts, 2023 was fantastic. Good mast, you're going to find bears. You're going to find bears. If not, go hit the choke cherries. If not, hit the raspberries.
No need to sit on your gut pile.
No need to sit on a stinky gut pile and deal with that. I'm not one to argue with a bear over meat. I've seen they come barreling in. They come running in and rushing in as if they own the place. I'd rather them be a calm, cool, collected situation where they approach their favorite oak tree or their favorite choke cherry or favorite raspberry or blackberry bush. I'd rather see that approach be calm, to where I can make a very well-placed, well-thought-out shot, then make something rushed. A rushed shot on a bear is a wounded bear, and a wounded bear is probably not going to be a recovered bear.
I would have thought that sitting in the gut pile would give you a nice chill shot.
I've seen them rush in on me, and that's not my style. I know that there's other guys who are willing to do it. Compound bow guys, probably. I'd rather have them be completely mellowed out, not have a care in the world.
Yeah.
They also, obviously, they love fruit. So if you got an apple orchard, we're lucky to have a lot of peach orchards over here. Peaches are another one that they like. Plums, wild plums, they'll go bonkers in this area over wild plums. And you just catch them stripping a tree. Wait until they're at that right spot, and you can get a nice quartering away shot and put the arrow right where it goes. But there's not enough hunters who appreciate bear hunting. It's one of those things in the West that we're limited on how you can hunt bears in Colorado, obviously. Very, very limited. So people gave up on it.
When you say how, you mean when?
When? So you get a September so September we have a archery and rifle, which runs concurrent. Don't get me started on that. Then we have an October, November season, and that's it. Without that spring season, we're seeing
Is the October, November both archery and rifle too?
no, those are actually only a rifle
Oh,
season. So there is a muzzleloader season that's mixed into that in later September. But
we don't have seasons like that. We don't have seasons where you can go out with a rifle, but you're not allowed to go out with a bow.
you can go out with a bow during rifle season, and I like to. Actually, I have no problem going out with just throwing the orange and bringing the bow.
Yeah, but I thought you just said you couldn't in the October,
No,
November.
no, you can't. You can't go spring season. There's no spring season, and you can't use a rifle with an archery tag. So we have that September early rifle tag, uh, which starts during our archery season, which is awkward. And then in October and all of November, you have a rifle tag that you can use a bow, shotgun, pistol with the right foot pounds of energy and caliber. It's a pretty fun idea, but you can be hunting bears for a few months out of the year, but it's not enough. That lack of a spring season, it's what has given us a few more than we can handle.
Yeah.
And that's, getting these NGOs in to get their butt in gear and start protecting it. Because that could have been prevented, a long time ago. That was 96. So it definitely could have been prevented. It could have really, really helped us to have kept that spring season. We have fawn killers here.
Hey,
Bears.
hold on one second. I'm going to have to stop for just a second because
Yeah.
my computer is it doesn't appear to be charging. 1 second.
Yeah, you're good, man.
All right.
Oh, there you are.
All right. Sorry about that.
No,
I got an interesting bear story. The day after Thanksgiving. Well, let me start this earlier. Start the story earlier. Last fall of 2023, there's a guy from the Nature Conservancy walking around my wife's ranch, like checking out some timber stands where they were doing some thinning. And with his dog, he's like a biologist for the Nature Conservancy, and this bear materializes out of the earth in front of him. And he goes over there and realizes that there's a den there. And the bear runs up a tree. And he tells my wife about this. And my wife, the following summer, finds the den. And all summer, she's been, it's a guest ranch, like a dude ranch. They take people on horseback rides.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like city slickers.
Yeah.
And so all summer she's been on rides. She's been taking people there and showing them the bear den, and she'll crawl down in it and let them crawl down in it. And so the day after Thanksgiving, we had a bunch of our friends are at her place, and we decided to go for a walk. And she goes, and I don't live with my wife. I live on the other side of the state. So I haven't seen this bear den. She says, "Oh, let's go check out the old bear den." And there's like 10 of us, and we go on this walk, and we go up, and she's leading us, and she goes up to the thing, and she's going to get in it, and she just jumps back, and there's a bear in it.
They recycle these things.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. We know that now.
Oh,
What's crazy, man? Is like that hole, the entry hole, I swear it's like 2 feet around.
Yeah.
And it's a giant bear. Not giant, but big. Like pretty good sized bear, not a dinker.
Well,
it's like, how in the world did he get in there?
I swear it's like they take all that grease and grease stuff that they've been rolling in, and they run at that thing, and they slip right in, and they don't come, They go in there, and they just sit in there and hope for the best.
Yeah. I saw a cougar like that at one time too, where he was in a hole in the ground that I just couldn't believe he could squeeze into.
That's you find those little culverts, those little 18-inch culverts, those ditches, and they'll slide right into something like
Yeah.
8,
Well,
or
I
they're
guess hound guys are terrified of that. When
yeah,
a dog, when a cougar goes in a culvert,
it's
it's
like having a rattlesnake in a pipe. It's
okay.
horrible. It's horrible. There is no scarier thing than a mountain lion in a spot like that because you can't get at them. There's no shot.
Did you used to run? Did you used to run?
I've been on a few with other
Uh-huh.
people, cat dogs. And man, you get them into a spot like that, and then the living on the Front Range, you find out where mountain lions are at. My old archery club, we had one holed up in a culvert like that, and she was a mama. And the only reason why we saw her is because her cubs were out there munching on a deer that they killed, and this was well within city limits. Uh, and that lion, she was holed up in a place where I didn't want to mess with her, and just like there is no way, just let her be. And CPW sent out a couple of rookies. They brought out one of those big bear things that's made out of the 10-foot pipe. And, I mean, they did not know what they were doing. It was an absolute.
What's this? They brought out a what?
So they brought out one of the bear traps where it's on the.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of the ones where they'll go re-release the bear up the hill kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they brought out that for a mountain lion. And this mountain lion and her 2 cubs, her cubs are probably almost around 4 or 5 months old. Not tiny, but certainly not ready to be alone. And she dove into the ditch and got into that drain pipe. Oh man, that thing's only 18 inches wide. I mean, that's not a place you want to mess with her. And these guys are trying to put one of them dog catcher ropes around her. And I'm like,
oh, that seems like a terrible idea.
No, just let her be. Just let her be. Just let her, let her figure out her life. You could have just told everybody at the range to just leave for a few days. And we did. We had the range locked down. But it's like, guys, like, not how you handle a cat. Not how you do it at all. Like, don't put her through any more than she's got to go through. Like, if you're going to do that, just finish her off.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a nasty animal. But they're beautiful. And I love seeing them, man. But not in that kind of spot.
Yeah. So tell me, I suppose we should talk for a few minutes about this defeated ballot initiative that would have outlawed cat hunting there in Colorado. Were you involved in the fight?
Oh yeah, I put a lot of stuff out there.
I saw a couple of posts on your Instagram about it.
Yeah, I put up a hell of a fight, as did everybody else. Mr. Gates, Dan's a hell of a guy.
Who's that?
Dan Gates. He actually, he's the head of Rocky Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. Sorry, but Dan Gates, heck of a guy, absolutely wonderful guy. He's a houndsman, trapper, a hunter, fisherman. Really big reason why it all happened. He put the organization together because that's the thing is that these anti-hunting NGOs, they know how to stay organized. They've been organized for 30, 40, 50 years. They have been playing the long game for a long time. They're smart. They know how to get at us, and they know how to divide and conquer, and they know how to make us fight amongst ourselves.
Fight amongst yourselves?
Oh, hunters do that all the time.
Well, how do they make hunters fight amongst themselves?
Well, it's that whole they can get the duck hunt. They try to get the duck hunter to be against the mountain lion hunter.
How do they do that?
Or get the elk hunter to be against the bear hunter. Well, they tell them that they need it because it makes it better. If you want to see one of the arguments that Wildlife for All and Cats Art Trophies used was mountain lions help prevent chronic wasting disease. That they can tell which deer have chronic wasting disease. This is an argument that they got blue in the face with me over. I mean, absolutely infuriated, and they had no evidence whatsoever.
I don't see how that leads to hunters fighting with hunters, but
what they did was try to convince deer hunters. Their argument was trying to convince deer hunters that they should be for the mountain lion hunting ban. If you want to see better deer and more deer that aren't sick, support Prop 127.
Oh.
You want to see, if you're a real hunter, you support Prop 127. They tried to divide us.
Oh, okay.
They tried, but Dan Gates knew how to round us up. The guys at Howell, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to Mike and Charles. They're good guys, really good guys, and they don't even live here. They don't even hunt here regularly that I know of.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guys at Howell really did a ton of help for us. There was other organizations that I would hope that would have got on the bandwagon and would have helped, but they didn't.
It's surprising that they didn't pass it, because if you look at the data on Americans' attitudes towards predator hunting, a clear majority of Americans oppose predator hunting.
I think they do until they're educated, until somebody
Well,
explains.
I'm just saying, as it stands right now, and for the last 15 years, that the American attitudes towards hunting, shooting, and hunting, trapping, and shooting sports, the NSSF survey that they conduct every 2 years,
it's taken a dive.
Well, predators have always been the minority, minority of Americans are on board with predator hunting.
I think,
and a clear majority, like in the 70s and up to 81, I think, percent are on board with hunting for meat.
And that's the thing, is that for the most part, there is a good percentage of people who I think understand hunting for meat. The hunting for predators, it's a hard one. There's even hunters themselves have a hard time with the idea of, hunting for a mountain lion or hunting for a bear, or anything like that.
Yeah, I know people that hunt deer and squirrels and turkeys, but don't feel right about hunting for bears and cougars.
I think here, in our case here in Colorado, it was kind of a fluke because everyone saw the political, cultural division, and even what it did to CPW with the Wolf Initiative. That Wolf Initiative really kind of set the stage for us. I mean, and there's a whole other multi-hour discussion that we could have about that.
How are the wolves doing?
They rounded all of them up that they've released. Basically.
All of them?
The ones that died, no, but they've rounded up most of them.
There's no more wild wolf. Like, when did they release them?
So they released them in January of 2024. They actually were supposed to release them by the end of 2023. They released them in January 2024, and we spent $5 million on 10 wolves, and we have nothing to show for it.
Why did they round them up?
Well, because they were attacking. What happened is that they started attacking livestock quite regularly. They were known problem wolves that came from Oregon, and that was the only state that would actually sell us any. They brought us problem wolves, and then we had a breeding pair, both of them known for predation on livestock. And then they decided they needed to round them up and their pups. They ended up leaving one of the pups out there. I think that was by accident. And then they have them in a holding facility, and they plan on re-releasing them.
Well, one wolf ain't going to do much.
No, one wolf can't do much. But one young wolf that's left alone by itself, if it survives, is probably going to learn some bad habits.
I'm just saying they're not going to form a self-sustaining population.
Oh, no. Yeah, you got to have two wolves. I mean, that's biology.
Are they planning to go get some more?
They are planning on getting some from British Columbia and releasing them next month.
Okay.
It's I believe Eagle County, Pitkin County, and Garfield County are the top three that they're talking about. So that's my neighboring county. Neighboring three counties. They're close.
10 years from now? I mean, you could imagine wolves would go nuts down there.
They will. There's a ton of agricultural activity, throughout Western Colorado, and that's why it was like shooting fish in a barrel for these for these wolves. And we already had them coming in. People have known that for years. I think
there's been sightings.
There's been plenty of sightings, confirmed sightings. I feel like in some ways they didn't want to admit that they had them here. Because then you have to come up with a management plan. If you admit that you have them here, that you have a known endangered species here, then you have to come up with a management plan. When you have a ballot initiative that says, hey, we're going to reintroduce these. Oh, by the way, we might have already had a few. Then we've come up with it without a management plan. And that's where the wolves, I think, that everybody saw in Colorado what that did. And now they don't want that with mountain lions. They're like, hey, look at what happened with the wolves. Look at how much of a problem that caused. Look at how much issue that caused. So it's not that they were pro mountain lion hunting. They just didn't want to see what happened with the wolves. They knew that
they didn't want like a bunch of political drama, you mean?
Oh, they didn't want the political drama. And they didn't want to see that. I think a lot of people didn't want to see CPW's hands tied.
Mm-hmm.
The way it is in California. Where it's the state has to hire people to come in to hunt them. Or to control them or to deal with problem cats. They don't want to see that. And they saw what happened with the wolves. Coloradans don't want that. I think that's why we won by 10%. To some people, that doesn't seem like a large margin, but that's 10% is a huge margin.
Oh, if you look at like our presidential elections in the recent history, that's a giant margin.
Yeah. Look at the presidential election. So I think that there was a shift in how people overall in Colorado think about wildlife. And I think that people generally don't want to see the government lose their. They know that CPW is not the government. They know that they are a government appointed agency for sure, but they're not the kind of people they're not the anti-hunting people. They're pro-wild. They're taking care of people. They're not the NGOs who are trying to hurt people, who are trying to make sure that we lose control of wildlife and give it to the governor, like we did with the wolves. And I think that people saw that everything that happened with wolves is a problem. $10 million, you get 5 wolves. Or sorry, $5 million, you get 10 wolves. We got screwed. We got screwed. That's $500,000 for wolves, and they end up dead. We're in a holding facility. That's not a successful reintroduction.
No, it sounds like it got botched.
Oh, it got super botched.
You'd want to pick some that are not at all habituated.
Well, and that's where I think that these ones that they're planning on bringing from British Columbia, they're not going to be habituated, but they're going to be smarter, stronger.
Elk killing machines.
They're going to be elk killers.
Yeah.
And I think that people want to see elk when they go to Rocky Mountain National Park, right?
Yeah.
If there's wolves there, and the wolves are not far from there, where they reside. If there's wolves there, there's not going to be that many elk, or they're going to be very scared, or they'll be hanging out in town.
They cohabitate in Yellowstone National Park. There's a lot of elk in Yellowstone National Park, and there's a lot of wolves.
There certainly is. But I also look at Yellowstone's a little bit different than Rocky Mountain. Yellowstone's bigger, far bigger. And the wolves have helped maintain the elk population, but I also there's a lot of hunting that goes right up to the edge of Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain National both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the wolves with Rocky Mountain, they will be entering and exiting the park pretty much whenever, because they know that they can't be touched. In Montana and Wyoming, those wolves are educated. They know if they wander too far, if they go into that zone, they can and will be hunted. In Wyoming, or you guys can have them hunt them in Montana, yeah?
Yeah.
It's pretty limited though, isn't it?
It was pretty carte blanche, but I think they're starting to dial it back a little bit. But there was a trapping season. There were a few up until a few years ago, I think you could buy as many tags as you wanted.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Idaho is pretty open about theirs. Wyoming pretty has their different zones, but I didn't know that about Montana. But yeah, in Colorado, why would they stop? They don't have to. They're dogs, and dogs are smart. They learn from patterns and from habituation very quickly. Just the same way a Chihuahua versus a German Shepherd or anything, they're still a dog. Uh, and I think that in Colorado, these wolves are gonna, unless U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or somebody, starts pushing it on a delisting.
Yeah. I mean, they're all over, and not all over in Montana. It's crazy they're not all over in Montana. Like, there's nothing that prevents them from being in eastern Montana. I'm surprised they haven't moved out here. But I mean, most of the mountain ranges have them in Montana. There's plenty of wolves that are not in national parks. Plenty. I see them all the time elk hunting.
I feel like that they're different. They act different at least. That they've got to be. They watch their step a little bit more if they know they can be hunted. I've seen that in Wyoming. That wolves that are in Yellowstone act completely different than wolves that are outside of Yellowstone. They charge the phone here, but yeah, they act completely different. Wolves that are outside of Yellowstone are
even outside of Yellowstone, they act different. Like sometimes when I see them, they run like they've seen the devil, and then other times they're kind of curious, especially if I have my corgi with me.
Yeah, I've noticed with dogs they can be a little. I had a blue heeler that he got a little curious about it. He because he wanted to know. It was years ago, but yeah, he wanted to know what it was. And it's like, buddy, you can't, that's not your friend.
No, I'm saying the wolves are curious of my corgi, not my corgi's curious of the wolves, but I'm sure she is too. But there's been several times where I've seen packs of wolves and so I'm hiking along with my dog, and they definitely, instead of running away, they often come a little closer if I have my dog with me.
Well, because I want to know what kind of little wolf that is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She kind of looks like a pork tenderloin.
Yeah. Little tiny pork tenderloin there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that people learned a lot of lessons with that wolf initiative, and that's why they voted no on the mountain lion thing. And I mean, a lot of that work came from Dan Gates and from the guys from Powell. And
that's interesting. I didn't. Yeah. They just had a bad taste in their mouth for wildlife drama.
I think they had a bad taste for it, and they also had a fear that, faraway people, teaching people that, Wayne Pacelli doesn't live in Colorado. Carol Baskin doesn't live in Colorado. These people don't live anywhere near Colorado. And quite frankly, they probably don't actually care what happens here. What they want is a matter of power and control over other people's way of life.
So you don't think that the anti-hunters are coming at it from like a principled, ethical perspective?
I
think that there's got to be some segment or some percentage of anti-hunters that really do think that it's immoral to kill animals.
Oh, I think that they all believe that. I just think that they don't have a logical reasoning behind it. I think that moral and ethical, yeah. I mean, if that's because everybody has a right to their belief. But to say that their belief is more important than my belief or your belief is taking away our ability to believe what we believe. And that's kind of playing a little psychology there, but that's saying that, Matt isn't allowed to eat meat because I don't eat meat. So therefore nobody should eat meat. That's not, is that taking away your choice or taking away? It's like, if they don't want to hunt mountain lions, or they don't believe in it, then don't hunt them. Just like hunters who I like hunting, some guys like hunting ducks. I'm not a big waterfowl guy. It doesn't mean I'm going to go. I like watching waterfowl. I can identify birds pretty well. I love seeing them when I'm fishing. Am I going to wake up real early in the morning and want to go shooting geese? Pretty doubtful.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I would want to stop you or anyone else. Doesn't mean I don't understand the need for it and the wildlife management part of it and the contributions that those licenses and the act of actually hunting does. And I think that there was a shift in Colorado with people on that.
Yeah, you just said that you said something along the lines that Carol Baskin, and what's the guy's name?
Wayne Castelli.
That they just wanted power. And I'm saying what animates these people is a belief that killing animals is wrong, not a quest for power.
It certainly is. But then they want to make sure that you can't either.
Right. Because they think it's wrong.
Yeah, they think it's wrong.
Like in the same way that they think that a lot of people think most people think murder is wrong.
Oh yeah, most people. Yeah, people think murder is wrong.
And a lot of people think that abortion is wrong. It's just so like when you think something's wrong, you don't think anybody should be able to do it.
Yeah. And I think that there was enough people that found themselves kind of caught in the middle that didn't see their way enough to be able to vote that way.
Yeah.
Which is thankful.
I'm glad it didn't pass. I mean, I'm concerned about like our rights to hunt for sure. I just don't think that's where the major threat is. To me, it's just kind of comical that the hunting community is so vocal about like anti-hunting initiatives and stuff like that, but they're not at all concerned about access and commodification of wildlife.
That's the thing, is that now that they're fired up, they went back down to sitting on their ass and not staying fired up about it. Not staying mobilized and saying, hey, it's
the only thing that can get hunters, like, it seems like the only thing that can get hunters motivated to fight is an anti-hunting bill.
And what sucks is to see how much steam has been lost in a month.
I mean, I just have watched over my 38 years of hunting, I've just watched hunting get shittier and shittier.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, but the fact that it's getting shittier, and it's like that it's getting shittier because of lack of access and too many people doing it.
I think that,
and too much promotion. Like, why don't people get fired up about that?
Well, that's that R3 thing. You have all these other people can't sell it. You know that they can't sell it, man. Yeah. That you're not. It's that the R3 thing, I think, is because they got to sell products. They got to have a new group of people to sell products.
I mean, when people were fighting that predator hunting bill in Colorado, they had to take active steps to fight that bill. So many positive things could be done for hunting by just not doing stuff, like disengage from hunting media. Don't give money to nonprofits that do R3. Like, just not doing things.
Well, and that's where I think that a lot of the NGOs who decided that they didn't want to help on the Prop 127, they didn't want to help on the fight of Prop 127 until they saw that we had a winning chance.
Oh,
those are the people that, I mean, not to go back to RMEF, but RMEF and similar organizations, they were real damn quiet.
Really?
They didn't say a damn thing until the middle of 2024.
Really?
In 2023. This started before 2023 when they started getting the signatures. Like, guys, where are you? Where are you? What are you doing? Are you going to Are you, are you gonna wait until you see we have a fighting chance? Are you gonna sit there and let us fry? Uh, a lot of organizations did that to us.
Really?
I feel that they didn't. A lot of people gave up on us. I heard from guys in Texas that, and I can't name names, but guys involved with SCI saying Colorado's a lost cause. Move on.
What's SCI?
Safari Club International.
Oh, okay.
And Dallas Safari Club as well. Guys involved with them, they were like, Colorado's a lost cause. You're screwed. Good luck.
Huh.
How many people in 2023 and the early part of 2024 basically said, you guys are hosed. You got nothing. You don't have a leg to stand on. You've already lost. And that's what got me fired up to say, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. Dan Gates got everybody organized, and he did a lot. The guy that Howell did a lot. You did. Blood Origins. People don't know how helpful their words, just some kind, positive words, helped. And it gets that. It's not the pro hunting people. It's not the anti-hunting people. It's all those people in the middle that we had to convince.
Oh, sure.
And that's the hardest thing in the world, to walk into and it's that one-on-one conversations over and over again. It's that putting those signs up, those bumper stickers, handing them out to people. It made a difference, made a huge difference for us. And having the right people on our team from the beginning helped, and the people who believed in us. And I'm glad that everybody, the guys who said that we were hosed, finally got with the program. But I'll always look at them in that whole, you weren't there for us in the beginning. Instead of saying,
I wonder, there must have been a political okay, so I don't know who you're talking about other than RMEF.
Safari Club guys, not their top guys, but I knew members of their club, and there was plenty of hunters here in Colorado. Hunters I know in Texas, California, New Mexico, all over, even Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. That guys who, you talk to them, and they're like, Colorado's screwed. You guys, it's already.
Okay.
It's a done deal.
All right. But what I'm wondering about is, so what you're saying is RMEF did not issue a public statement saying that we oppose this.
No, not until later. Not until it was already basically on the ballot, and it was one of those. They should have started that in 2023. Everybody should have. Everybody should have been on our. They should have joined.
But once it was on the ballot, then RMEF.
It should have been before. It should have been before the ballot. When Cats Aren't Trophies was out there in front of the grocery store gathering signatures to be able to get it on the ballot, everybody should have been out there with us trying to stop it. I'm not saying that they allowed it to get on the ballot, but they should have been saying, guys, it's time to help hunting in Colorado and beyond. I mean, if that had changed, that could have changed how things are perceived in other states, and it would allow other wildlife commissions. I mean, Washington's out of control, absolutely out of control. And I think that some organizations should have jumped on the bandwagon a little earlier. But I'm glad that it didn't pass. I'm really glad it didn't pass. I'm thankful.
What do you think about this this Utah thing to sell off federal lands?
Oh man, it worries me. Worries me big time.
I mean, to me, that's like 100,000 times more terrifying than anti-predator hunting bill in one state.
It scares me because it sets a precedence for every other state.
Oh, well, yeah. I think that my understanding is that, there's 13 other states that are supporting Utah's initiative.
But they shouldn't.
And yeah. And if Utah were to start selling off large swaths of federal land, then my understanding is that other states would follow suit, like it would set like a legal precedent.
Oh, it would be horrible. Hold on one second. But yeah, I mean, it's the idea that it's horrible. I mean, it's so, most people don't know in Colorado, they actually sell small parcels of BLM land here. You can actually look up BLM land for sale in Colorado, and they sell small parcels here and there. Not a ton, but it's one of those, like, Utah got a hold of that acreage, we'd never get it back. And Utah would easily sell it. I mean, come on, they'd be fools to not sell to the highest bidder.
They've already sold 4 million acres.
Yeah, they've sold 4 million.
They've taken, over the years, they've taken control of 4 million acres of federal land and sold it.
Yeah. And
Idaho has sold 1.7 million. New Mexico has sold 4 million. Yeah, I definitely think that would be an avenue to places that I can currently go becoming places I could no longer go.
And that's where I think that everyone needs to start getting involved where they can. But what sucks is it's a Supreme Court case. They skip over everything. It's not a ballot initiative that people get to vote on. It's not a
well, there must be a feeling that public sentiment is going to play an important role, because in Utah right now, there's billboards all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Encouraging people to support the move to, for the state to take over federal land.
The thing is,
so there must be, it's not just in the court's hands.
No, it's not in the court's hands. I think that they're trying to garner as much support as they possibly can. They certainly are. But I also feel like what sucks today, it is in the court's hands. And the Supreme Court, they're far away from the West. They are far removed from it. They probably look at that BLM land on a map like most people do that don't live here or anywhere near a Western state. And they look at it as vacant desert that's not being used.
Yeah. And I'm going to go, for my personal law is, I'm going to go any place that's currently federally owned. If they sell it off, I'm going to keep going there.
Oh, yeah. The thing is that, like, where are we going to, once it's gone, it's gone. They can't buy it back. There is no.
From my standpoint, it's an illegitimate sale. Like, I'm just not going to abide by it.
Well,
I mean, it's like we're born on this tiny speck in the cosmos, this like one little tiny planet. And there's all these rules about where you can and can't go already. And now, like, our government's trying to make it so that there's even more places you can't go.
Oh, they want to
it's like a lot of this, this is coming from the right. I thought the right was like pro-freedom, you know?
Well, it's coming from the right, and you would think that they'd say, hey, this is one thing where we need to stop this. We need to make sure that this doesn't happen, because people need places to recreate, and the taxes that pay for this are a good thing. You know, and I would figure that the new right would be smart enough to understand that.
Yeah.
But
we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they are. Yeah. I mean, there was a big push to sell off federal lands like 7-8 years ago. Yeah. And then the politicians figured out that it was a politically untenable position. And so hopefully, you know, they just need a little reminder of that.
I mean, Utah makes hundreds of millions of dollars every year on those leases as is. Why would you throw that in the trash? I mean, why would you, if you have a winning system, why do you want to mess with it?
What do you mean they make hundreds of millions?
So oil and gas leases.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
They money out to oil and gas companies, like in Vernal, Utah, eastern Utah, Vernal area. There's oil and gas out there. But there's still tons of hunting. So it's like you can make a killing on that oil and gas lease. It only takes up a tiny percentage and still get a guy like me to go out there and pay for a damn hunting tag.
Yeah.
Why would you not? Why would you not keep it going? If you have a winning formula, don't change it.
Wait, but wouldn't they make even more money if it was in their hands? If the state owned it?
Now that depends. I would imagine that state-owned lands get a lower rate for those leases, or they would sell it, and then the state wouldn't get it.
Yeah, but how is it that Utah gets any money when there's a oil and gas lease on federal land?
So the state gets tax revenue because it's all taxed. It's all taxed. It's a tax product.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I'm worried about that because it's going to end up, either way, it's going to change access and how we look at it and how it's handled. You know, whether that case goes for the state of Utah or against the state of Utah. But I mean, they've been at it for a long time. You know, state of Utah has been trying this for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was the state that brought it to a head last time.
Yeah.
There was that congressman that, was it Devin Nunes?
I think it was. Yeah, because he wanted to, I think it was something about making it more like Texas.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, you look at the issues that Texas has, look at their property taxes as compared to other states. Holy cow, they got high property tax. Do you want to, I mean, and no place for the public to go hunting. It's a pay to play kind of place.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can go pay somebody $8,000 to go hunt a pig down there, but there's no way in hell you're going to. Can you afford to rent a deer lease or something, or buy a property down there? And it's just
I wouldn't even want to. It's like, at that point, I just go buy beef. I don't like, to me, hunting's always been about like just going out and getting something for free, you know, to eat.
Well, going
next to free, like for the cost of your tag.
Well, the cost of your tag and your equipment and stuff, but
yeah.
For me, the idea was the adventure of going into the unknown. If it's a privately owned place, it's no.
That's a great way of putting it. It takes all the adventure out of it.
It kills the adventure. It's now a purchased place.
It's like going to a golf course. It's like, let's go to the hunting place. This is where you go hunting.
It's like being a little kid and drawing a treasure map to your backyard. You know? Oh, I buried the treasure next to the shed.
Yeah.
I already know where it's at, but really cool.
Yeah.
You want to go to my clubhouse when I'm done, dude?
You know, when I was a little kid, we'd go to this like outdoor expo at the hockey rink downtown a couple times, and they had a stock tank there with trout in it, and you could fish for those trout with like a little piece of corn. You know, the kids could. And my brothers and I had even when we were like 5, 6, 7 years old, we had no interest in doing that because we lived on a lake and we fished, you know, like.
Didn't you want to throw like a mustard in there and see what would go on?
It's just like, and that's what like paying to hunt. That's what paying to hunt is to me. It'd be like fishing for trout in a stock tank with a.
It's not hunting, you know, when you're in that situation. And it's probably because I've never hunted, you know, anywhere east of Colorado, honestly. Nebraska once, but really, I mean, it's like, I don't like the idea of having privatized land in the West. I mean, that's
not any more than there already is.
No. And it's sad to see those little bits and pieces. Like you go to a place and you're like, hey, that house wasn't there before. I haven't been here in 2 years and now there's a house. Or you see a place where you don't have access anymore. And we already see it creeping in. I wouldn't want to see it all happen all at once. And that's where it would change a lot of things. You know, I know that Utah is trying to do what's best for Utah, but they kind of got to think about it at the American level too.
I wonder if there's any polling data on what Utah residents think. Do the majority of Utah residents want to take control of federal lands in Utah?
Uh,
That'd be an interesting thing to look into.
That would be a very interesting thing to understand.
There's got to be polls on that.
There's got to be polls on it, and that's where I think that change. I'm
going to pause for a second. Look it up. 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't find anything on Utah specifically.
But yeah,
but according to a 2022 study by the Center for American Progress, 76% of Americans support expanding public lands, not only maintaining but expanding.
That right there needs to be part of the court case against it.
Yeah,
because it's those are the guys we trust. The Bureau of Land Management, the BLM guys, the National Park, the Forest Service. These are the guys who have always been on our side, and they protect and hold down millions and millions and millions of acres of public land.
I guess I wouldn't care so much if, let's say that Montana put it in their constitution that they would never sell state lands.
Oh, I would love that.
Then all the federal land became state land. I'd be like, okay, that's fine as long as you're not going to sell it.
But there's no guarantees in that. And actually, Utah has it in their constitution that they can and will sell it for best use.
No, I'm saying we have it in our constitution that you can't sell it.
Yeah. I would love that. I mean, and that's the kind of stuff that needs to be done. States need to do more to protect their resources. They're not making any more land. You can't make more land.
Boy, I tell you what, our politicians in this state get the message crystal clear that public lands are important to Montanans. Every candidate for the Senate and for governor in our state, they are always accusing each other of trying to sell it off. Like Shady Sheehy, the guy, our new senator, Tim Sheehy, like Shady Sheehy would sell off public lands. That was like our incumbents. And then Shady Sheehy, or Tim Sheehy, who's our new senator, he was releasing all kinds of ads saying, no, I wouldn't sell off public lands. And like, it's just wildly unpopular, the idea of.
Well, and Montana has a good chunk of public land. Guys are blessed with it, and most of it being untouched. That unmolested public land that's precious.
Yeah.
In the lower 48, there's very few places that, you can get into some really wild stuff in Montana.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't, in Colorado, you can't be any further than 9.2 miles from a road.
Oh, is that so?
So, and that's what I find so scary about the idea of Utah, because south of I-70 in Utah, there's not a whole lot of paved road. But in Colorado, there's a lot of roads and a lot of trails. So if they started selling off BLM land, that's going to get developed.
Yeah.
And that's where Utah would set a precedence. And I like going to Utah. I don't live but an hour and a half from Moab. Beautiful place. In the LaSalle Mountains, I could basically climb the hill and see the LaSalle Mountains, right? The LaSalle Range, which is beautiful, beautiful place. Supposedly a lot of bears and deer there. But it's one of those, like, I don't want to see that go away. I don't want to see it turn into a place where they pump oil. And that's the only thing. And I'm not saying I'm against oil. Certainly not. But I think that Utah would do better by letting it be. And look at the national results. People don't want to see.
But people want more places they can go, not less places they can go.
Yeah. And we need more places we can go.
Yeah.
And we need to protect what we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
can't think of anything better to end on than that.
We definitely need to protect what we have.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Thanks for coming on. It was great. I learned a lot.
Heck yeah, man. It was a good time, bro.
All right. Best to
man.
you. Let's stay in touch.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
man.
Bye.